Would you like to reduce your net fleet fuel spend by 10 to 23%? Could you use that money in other areas in your company while reducing your carbon footprint at the same time? Click the link below and learn more. Listen, hey, everybody, welcome to FEI. I'm talking to Kevin Hill, my long-time, really good friend, who I think we became friends because I suggested there's a whiskey bar and you can smoke your cigars in there, right? I think
we did actually. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, that was like the first time I met you. You're like, hey, I don't give a shit about the contracts or any of this stuff. Where's the whiskey bar that I can smoke my cigars at? I think that was the most important thing.
I think that was what we discussed after dinner. Yes,
it is, and he just likes brush past research. That's why he keeps it on the screen behind him.
I know, right?
Just because you're a big fan, right?
I'm a big fan. I watch it 24/7.
You do watch it 24/7.
Yeah.
So you're the founder and I guess CEO. Are you the head of custodial arts?
I am the one and only. I do everything because there's just one me. So one employee.
I got it.
Yeah, one employee.
But so we were talking about my Cleveland Indians 1948 picture behind me, the front page of the Cleveland Press last time they won. Behind glass, by the way. It's pretty rare, pretty cool. But even if you're not an Indians fan, it's a pretty cool piece of memorabilia. But you used Chat GPT to find out who hasn't won a World Series, and it said the Texas Rangers.
Texas Rangers, right? So it's a little bit out of date.
They have. Clearly the Rangers have, unless I was dreaming that whole series that I watched.
I know, last year, right? So,
yeah.
But you have the Brewers. Right, you have the Padres. Right?
Oh wow,
the Padres have never won. The Seattle Mariners and Tampa Bay Rays. I thought they had won. I guess they've been to 2 World Series, but they haven't won either one of those.
Yeah, I mean, the Indians since the '90s have been fairly relevant enough that they're a respectable team in the World Series, but they haven't been able to get one.
That they haven't. That they made it there with the famously drought Chicago Cubs back in
the Cubbies
2015, 2016.
Which was awful because my whole life I've been a Cubby and an Indians fan. And I always wanted a Cubs-Indians World Series. And then when it happened, I realized I really didn't want that.
I know I grew up a Cubs fan and, I always liked the Indians. Major League came out whenever I was...
I mean, you can't be a fan of one and not like the other.
I know, right?
Right?
Yeah.
You can't.
I used to really like Boston just because of the same reason. But because they had the Patriots and the Red Sox and they couldn't win anything. They had the Celtics, I guess. But over the last 25 years or 20 years, they've just cleaned up. So I don't feel sorry for them at all anymore.
They've done a lot better. I don't feel sorry for them either. This isn't a ES or Major League Baseball update, though. It's really not. It's not even the season. So listen, dude. So brush press research is pretty cool, dude. What are you guys doing there? Tell people what the hell's going on at Brush Pass.
Yeah, so it is industry data on freight brokerage and 3PLs. So a lot of contact information about decision makers there, what technology they're using. And, I had carrier lists at one point and reaching out. I was a freight broker, but I didn't know anything about selling to freight brokerages and also who the players are out there. And a lot of tech companies that are entering the market don't really have a great grasp on it as well. So that's why I learned through my own experience. And then when we were at Freightway, I was working with a lot of freight tech companies over there. So I decided to create this database where it is the perfect go-to-market add-on to shave off weeks, months, and years of time of trying to figure it all out yourself.
Yeah, right. I mean, and that's the thing. Once you learn the keys as to how to get this information and where to get it, you realize that it's difficult.
It's difficult, right? You can say it's doable, but you're going to pay. I mean, you're going to pay somebody a few months to do it, and
and then once you have it, it's one of those things too, Kevin, where once you have it, you don't anymore, right? Once you've It's like playing hockey, like Gretzky said. You got to skate
Mm-hmm.
to where the puck's gonna be, because once you get there, it ain't there anymore, right? And
No,
it's the same thing with all this data. By the time you've validated all your data, it's out of date. You've got to be validating it
yeah,
constantly. And if that's not your core business, why wouldn't you just get it from my man Kevin?
I know at a fraction of the price of doing it yourself, and
And
no
with a
worries about it.
sparkling personality and a beautiful
Yeah,
smile as well,
I
right?
know, right? And
I mean,
maybe a little consulting, right? To add on top of that.
well, I mean, and that's the
Right.
other point, right? Because
Yeah,
once you have the information, what the hell do you do with it, right? You got to tell people what it means. You got to have
yeah,
that interpretation and that like we used to say at Freightways, the tribal knowledge to be able to utilize the data, right?
you do. Yeah. Yeah, how are you going to utilize it? How are you going to segment out your list? How are you going to kind of build marketing campaigns or email campaigns off of like who's using what TMS? Right, you have
Right.
different approaches to different users. Whether you're a TMS yourself or you're trying to do integrations or you've done integrations, so you want to promote that, you need to find XTMS, all their users, all the companies using them, and go out and attack that market.
Right. And I mean, and the aside from just, I mean, the sales is huge, right? To have this type of information to understand who's using what, right?
Oh
Because
yeah.
then you know who's using your competitors or who's using
Mm-hmm.
your stuff, et cetera. But the knowledge and different strategies that you can get from this just within that market, and I say just within, I mean that's the market, right? The people who
Yeah.
are trying to sell tech and provide tech, et cetera, right? That's your market. But I can think of the strategies within that and the knowledge gleaned from this so massive and in so many different verticals or uses. And yet, outside of that market, there's another huge application for all this data as well, right? Understanding the marketplace. You can glean some
Yeah.
information on where the market's going and what the trends are based on this that has absolutely nothing to do with trying to sell them the latest TMS or the latest visibility software, right?
Yeah, you can determine what where the 3PL market is going. The freight, and certainly the main part of that is the freight brokerage market. You can cut
Yeah.
through the noise. There's 26,000 registered freight brokerages out there, but most tech companies are only interested in the top 1,500, let's say, to
Well,
2,000.
because then, once you get below 1,500, the rest of them are wearing pajamas, right?
Basically, yeah. I mean, if you're looking at 10 employees or more, or 10 million in gross revenue or more, you're only looking at maybe 1,000, maybe 1,200 that
Yeah.
that
I
fall
mean, and
within.
I say that tongue in cheek kind of
Yeah,
because it's true and it's funny at the same time, right?
yeah, it is true and funny, right? So you might find two people in Arkansas, right, wearing pajamas, or and they might be doing 5 or 6 million in gross revenue. They might be doing 10 million in gross revenue,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
they're not really shopping for tech. That they have their stable customers, right? They're stable carriers. Everything's already kind of in there. They're not really looking to be the next Arrive or Coyote or Molo, right? It's
Mm.
just a really nice lifestyle business. If you could be a broker, this. If you can be a broker
Yeah.
and have 2 or 3 people in your office and take down $500,000 to $1 million at home every year,
It's
why
fantastic.
why why screw with that?
Yeah. Why stress? Why
Yeah,
stress?
yeah.
It seems it seems to me that might be an emerging market for somebody.
I know, right?
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or not an emerging market, but an untapped market, because it's not like it's growing. I mean, maybe it is growing, but it's been there. That portion has been there for since
Since the
really probably
80s,
since
right?
brokerage was invented,
Yeah,
right? I
yeah,
mean that I mean it's like saying, when did the owner operator exist? Well, since forever.
yes.
I think what
Since
Rubber Duck was an owner operator, wasn't he?
he was, yeah, he was.
Yeah,
Rubber Duck
he
was
was an
a
independent. He
yeah.
wasn't running for anybody.
No, no, no.
Yeah,
You
no,
know,
no, yeah,
the Snowman wasn't. He was independent.
he was an independent.
He was. He was an owner op.
Go independence.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
always thought it was funny that they were running for the border of Arizona in that movie.
Convoy, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, Convoy. Yeah,
yeah.
I know. It's
It's really strange because different parts of the movie were happening in California, Arizona, New Mexico, and then a prison in Texas, all like within 24 hours of the
I
movie.
know.
Yet, if you were like hammered down as fast as you could possibly go, you're not getting from that jail in Texas to California in
No,
24 hours.
you are not.
You're not getting anywhere near it, right?
No.
And like, if we could just get to the New Mexico border, then the cops can't get what? Wait a minute. That's not. Anyway, there were some logistics issues that I had in that movie.
There is, the cross border car chases. There's always those logistics questions on those.
Yeah.
I guess in the '70s, CB radio was all you had, so
Yeah,
maybe it was
yeah.
hard
Well,
to.
yeah. My dad did. My dad had a Monte Carlo, and he had the Smokey and the Bandit stash, and
Yeah,
he had a
yeah,
CB radio in his Monte Carlo. Never
yeah,
smelled diesel in his life, but he was breaker 19 for that rubber ducky.
yeah. Breaker on 9.
Yeah.
Breaker
We're
on
way
9.
off of the data though. So
Is that what we were going
the
to talk
other thing
about?
with your data, I mean, your data, you're constantly in your data is being updated and
Yeah.
refreshed, right? Because
Oh yeah.
people change. I mean, everybody knows that, right? You call somebody, what? You're working where? You're who? You're with
Hmm.
who now? You're constantly moving around. Everybody is. So that's changing. It's very difficult to do that. And below that, you've got people that not aren't as their profiles aren't as public as others that are changing crazy, right? I mean, a
You're
lot of
exactly
times
right.
that
Yeah.
purchaser you're trying to get to isn't the guy or girl on LinkedIn. It's somebody who does not even on LinkedIn, right,
Not even
or
on.
anything like that. That's making those decisions. That's making those calls, and that's really difficult to get to and keep maintained, right?
It is, and I've been running stuff, through platforms on the data, and about 40% of the emails you can find on your Zooms or your data.coms or Apollos, right? And those big lead databases, but
Yeah,
about 2/3 really, about 2/3 of the email addresses and the contacts I have are from entities that they don't really track, right?
right.
So a lot of people just off the radar. A lot of decision makers out there, they're just completely off the radar
And
of big
purposely
data
so.
collectors. Purposely so, yeah.
Yeah.
Purposely so.
That's one of those things that also I've always wondered, how do you strike that balance? And maybe you don't have the answer. I don't suspect that you do, but it's just something to put out there. Is if you were in this position running this company, right, and you are of the mind that you want the latest tech, you want to stay ahead of the curve, you want to be the cutting edge leader, right? I mean, like. U.S. Express is always that way. Max Fuller was always that way. He
Hmm.
always wanted to be cutting edge technology and do that kind of stuff. So is David Parker, his half brother at Covenant, right? So
Hmm.
how do you do that and stay removed enough that you don't get bugged 24/7? Or is it how do you accidentally put up these gatekeepers that suddenly you don't know what the hell's going on?
That is true, right? You have to be found to know about all this great technology that's out there.
Exactly.
You should be shopping and be interested in learning what's out there. And not everything's going to be a good fit. Very little might be a good fit, really. But it's good to know. And I'm actually in the middle of fielding a survey right now. It'll be my first report that I'll be offering subscribers and one-off reports on
Very
different
cool.
verticals in freight tech and kind of what their brand awareness is and market perceptions from the freight brokerages about their ROI and kind of if they have the capabilities. But you'll have a lot of companies in there that a lot of brokerages don't really know anything about, right? They're new companies that they might not even have made it to market yet, but in different verticals, whether that's, of course, TMS systems or visibility or kind of back office automation tools, kind of AI tools that are out there right now,
Hmm.
um, and just being able to keep on top of what's available at least to see if anything can fit your needs.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be interesting to find out where they get their information from.
Yeah.
You know, just how do they understand and do they know what the actual trends are? I'd love to
Probably not.
be I'd love to get a survey of and find out how many of them can actually define AI, especially those who say that they use it.
It's hard to define, right? That's been one of the things that we've talked about for a while and stuff. And I think I think what I've come to the conclusion is that there's just not AI is not a category, right? It's a tool for
Yeah,
whatever software to make it better, to make it more automated, right? Whether
and
that's
some of it doesn't work. I mean, Chat
some,
GPT still thinks that the Rangers haven't won a World Series
exactly,
yet.
exactly, right? I try to get it to scrape some data, and it's like, oh yeah, sure, I can do that. 12 hours to do that. I'm like, cool. 6 days
Yeah,
later, I'm just like, well, just send me the results, man. I I am tired of waiting on it. So a lot of it, doesn't work perfectly. It's very intriguing, but yeah, it's something that plugs into tools to make it work. Supposedly make it work better, right? But just AI on
yeah,
its own doesn't mean anything,
yeah.
right? You have to
So,
use
Kevin,
it somehow.
you've been doing this business that you're doing right now, right? The brush pass research. This has been your professional life for a long time. I mean,
It,
you're a professional at this, or various versions of it.
yeah, yeah, no,
Not particularly brush pass, but this is what you did at Freightways, was the research and all that type of stuff. A few really, we should have won awards for some of the shows that you and I did, especially uh,
we should have.
the
We did what,
the
3 days a week or something?
the
Was that three?
COVID market daily update or whatever the heck
I
it
know that
was.
was like 3 days a week, right? Or was that 2 days a week?
Yeah,
It was a
yeah,
lot.
that
It
was
was
rough.
a lot. It was like the noon show, the noon
It felt
freight
like it was
news show.
24/7. It
Yeah,
felt like
yeah.
we were.
We had an hour. We had an hour. We did a lot of
Remember when
interviews.
our guests canceled in the second half,
Oh yeah,
and so you and I just kind of vamped for a half hour, and they
yeah, yeah, yeah. It was sort of like in the
he said,
early
"Look, you
days
could
too,
have
where
ended
it's
the
just
show a
like,
half hour early if you wanted to." But
yeah, no. It was like, oh, we got to reboot the system. Give us 2 minutes. I'm like, okay, we can do 2 minutes.
yeah, yeah,
Give us 5 more minutes. I'm like, okay, we can do another 5 minutes. And it's just
we
like,
did
come
another
on,
5 minutes.
guys.
Come on, guys, get
Come
us
on,
out of here.
guys. Come on,
Uh,
guys. But yeah, those were in
no,
like the early days, where
those were the early days.
I think we still had the
Um,
voice box out there, the speaker that we did the
yeah,
remote interviews with, right?
yeah, we didn't even
And
have them in our ear. We had to
yeah,
listen. Yeah, that's
yeah,
exactly
and
right.
yeah, and like killing 20 or 30 minutes not knowing what to do was kind of like, oh god, what do I do? But now it's just like
We
20 or 30
we didn't
minutes.
know what we were doing at minute one, brother.
Yeah,
Admit it.
well, minute
Um,
minute end, we
yeah,
didn't know what we were doing.
but okay, so we're way off track. What I was going to ask you was, is there, over your years, and maybe I don't know, what are some of the things that you've learned through your data that surprised you?
Just how So before Freight Waves, I was doing carrier lists, so I was collecting leads for freight brokers to sell them, but I was also building this database of carriers to sell brokers, right? So
Right.
one of the things that is most interesting for both markets, right? It's the numbers, the MC numbers, the authorities are dominated by the smaller players, right? Those independent
Sure.
truckers, one, two, three truck fleets, and the smaller brokerages. But when you look at revenue, you look at especially on the carrier side, trucks on the road. It's 85% of the MC numbers might be 5 trucks or less, but 85% of the people who own the trucks, come from I think it's 20 trucks or more, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
you have this lopsided, and same thing with the broker side, right? There's 26,000 authorities, but the top, say, 1,000 of those authorities control about 85% of the revenue,
Right.
right?
Right. Right. Right.
So
Right.
you
Right.
have
Right.
this
Right. Right.
this long fragment the industry, but it's really deceptively almost very concentrated at the top still.
Yeah. And that's important when you're looking for contacts for decision makers,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Because
Because
you
a
can
lot,
spend your time really going after a lot of people who their decision is just, hey, I want to keep things the way they are. Like you said before, right? I've got these 3 or 4 customers. This is what we're doing.
yeah. And if you're a tech company, right, whether it's selling the carrier market or selling to freight brokerage market, is
Yeah.
that you need a lot of users in a lot of these platforms, right, for it to make sense to get that ticket
Right.
price. Whether that's $50,000 a year in ARR or 100,000 or even more than that, right?
Yeah.
Your market shrinks considerably whenever you're talking about that. It's not this. We'll take on the freight broker side. It's not this 26,000 pool of freight brokerages, right? You're looking at about 1,000. a
Yeah.
thousand to make your economies of scale work, or
Yeah.
unit
Because otherwise,
economics, or whatever it is.
you're looking at 5 users, maybe tops, in a single location. After that,
Yeah, yeah,
that's crazy.
3 to 5,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And you're weeding through 24,000 names to figure out, because same way with the owner ops in the FMCSA database, right?
Yeah.
And even the smaller fleets, say 5 or 10 trucks, you can go out of business, you can close your doors, and hang on to that authority.
Mm.
And that's what you
Mm.
kind of see whenever you start calling all those carriers, is that getting hold of them is next to impossible. So, whether they're even in operation anymore or not, who knows? And same with brokerages, right? I mean, I'd say easily 5 or 10,000 of those 26,000 don't really exist.
Okay. That's
But you can
interesting.
spend a lot
What
of
are the
time
trends?
trying to go after them, right? And not
Yeah.
even trying to, but trying to sift through all the noise.
That's the difficult, and that's where, your services and services like that are really, really valuable, because, like I said, it is not their core industry. Their core industry isn't to do this.
It is. Well,
It's to sell their product, but it is a core intelligence that you got to have, right?
it is. So, you want to sell your product, right? I think that's
Yeah.
the nature of business, right? You want to sell your product. Do you want to hire salespeople to basically do what I'm doing, right? Figure out who the best people are to call, or do you want
Yeah.
the person that you're paying to make sales be on the phone making sales? Because you got to figure out who you need to call, and oftentimes that's 70% of the process. And so, do you want your
Yeah.
salespeople doing
Yeah.
research
You're right. Right.
or doing deals?
I wonder if there's data out there that shows, because I mean, what you're saying is basically, and it's got to be true, is cold calling. You got to do your cold calling, right? You got to call people,
Yeah,
but you can absolutely up your success rate by calling the right person.
the right person. Yes, yes, and calling the right person instead of trying to find who that right person is. Right.
Yes,
if you
exactly.
if you're making more calls to the right people instead of trying to find the right people, your success rates are going to go up, right?
Yeah,
It's just math.
now I get it.
Yeah,
I didn't understand it.
yeah.
That's why you
You've
got
been
the
in
big
enough
thick
brokerage houses
glasses.
too, and on the sell side, right? Hey, you got to go find leads. You got to go find shippers, right? But what if I had the
Absolutely.
shippers I needed to call that were qualified? Let's say qualified, and all I did was call them all day. You're
Yeah.
going to make more contacts. You're going to hear more no's, right? You're going to get more yeses. And that's the way it should be, instead of
Well, yeah,
spending half your day
and
trying to
really,
find someone to call.
it's a really important. That's a really important distinction, Kevin. And you can
Hmm.
use this as you're like you said, you're going to get more no's and a lot fewer. I don't know,
Yeah.
because that's right. I mean,
Yeah.
that's really that's the jump, right? Is from I have no idea who you should talk to, or I don't know what you're talking about. We don't even do that, or what, to a no or yes. That's where you want to get to, right? So you're reducing all that noise in the beginning.
Noise, right? Yeah. Think about all the time you spent in your sales career looking for leads.
Yeah.
Right? Looking for people to call, right? If you eliminate that and you're just calling people that you already know you need to call.
Yeah.
More contacts. More, when I say more contacts, I mean more your contact rate, you know? You make those same 50 calls, right? You said, 40 of them, especially on the broker side, right? We don't even ship anything. It's like, okay, well, all right, on to the next one. Which is a waste of time.
Prospecting used to be when you had a sales meeting, you got to the area a half hour early and drove around and looked for who you were going to call on, doors you were going to knock on after your meeting. That was your extent of your prospecting.
That was,
right?
Yeah. But if you had a list of everyone in that area already, right? Yeah. Okay. Boom, 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 boom. Just quickens the pace, right?
Make it happen. That's what Kevin Hill does. He makes it happen, bro.
You just accelerate that sales cycle.
Just like that, brother.
Yeah. You got to snap your fingers though to do it.
You got to. You have to.
It's a must.
It brings the sparkle energy to it. That's the secret sauce.
It is.
I love it, dude. I love it, dude. 26 minutes. Pew, shoots by.
Was it really 26 minutes?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's it. I mean, we're already over time, brother. I love it. Where people who should and where they finding you, where they finding Brush Pass Research.
You can go to thebrushpassresearch.com and see the database, create a free account to search, or you can go to brushpassresearch.blog and see all the industry blog posts that I put in. Great numbers, great for slide decks, sales presentations, internal presentations, VC presentations. Swipe those graphs and use them. And you find me on LinkedIn, of course, and then Kevin at brushpassresearch.com.
Fantastic stuff. Love it, man. Hey, can you give us a Who Loves You, Baby?
Who Loves You, Baby?
I love it, man. Thanks, brother. Peace and love, everybody. We'll catch you next time on FEI.